So breakups, we don't like them, but we go through them. So what are some tips? And let's talk about experiences. Hi guys, welcome back to the Make Life Beautiful podcast. You are here with Wendy, and guys, we can all relate, right? They are one of the hardest things personally that I would go through in life. You know, out of everything else, breakups I think hit you the most in so many ways, which we're going to talk about today. And also I've recently been through a breakup myself, so this is kind of fresh in my mind. This topic was actually requested by one of you guys in the comments. So if you guys want me to talk about topics that you're interested in, don't forget to join the community. There's a join button on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on a podcast platform, head to my YouTube channel. It's called Make Life Beautiful on YouTube. Just search it up and click the join button. And what this will give you is membership to the Beauties community, which is a bunch of us that want to self-improve and make life beautiful. And also there's going to be guides and live streams, Q&As, and checklists and courses to help you. So this week, the beauties will have access to some breakup tips, breakup hacks, breakup guides, as well as if you guys have any questions personally about a breakup that you want me to answer, pop it in the communities section and I will personally go through and reply all of them. Also, if you're part of the community, I will reply to every single comment as well. At the end of the day, guys, it's just us supporting each other, and this is a space that I'm super excited about. So join us and it's going to be super fun. All right, so back to breakups. So before I jump into kind of like giving you some tips and what I've learned, I just kind of want to share some of my personal experiences with breakups. I've been through quite a few breakups in my life, and actually just to give you some context as well, I'm someone that likes really long-term relationships. I'm not someone that is into, just trying it out. When I'm in a relationship, I commit and I am serious and I really, really want to make it work. That's kind of the attitude I have towards a lot of things that I do in life. So I guess it's not a huge surprise. And also if you're into like zodiac stuff, I'm a Capricorn. So it makes a lot of sense. It's like, for a Capricorn girl, it's like if you're not marriage material, I'm not interested because I have other things to do. I don't want to be wasting my time on a guy that, is just going to leave my life in a couple of months. I'm here to build things. I'm here to make things last. So I am a heavy committer. So that also means that whenever I've gone through a breakup, it's been really tough because I put so much time, energy, and myself into that relationship. And every time I go into a relationship, I think it's going to last forever. I mean, it could be very naive of me to be doing that, but I think if you don't have that attitude, why are you in the relationship in the first place? I mean, it sucks that things end, and sometimes they do, and they have for me, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you go into the relationship thinking something's going to go wrong, because I think that's the quickest way to really ruin the relationship and make it go wrong. So that being said, whenever I've gone through a breakup, it's been really, really tough on me. And there's lots of ways that a breakup you could make the breakup even worse just by being, anxious like me or overthinking. So there's a bit of context for kind of like my relationship history. And I also kind of have some bad habits that really make breakups harder than it needs to be. And I also think there's like different kinds of breakups. Like you have the breakups where you initiate the breakup. You have the breakups where they initiate the breakups. You have the breakups that are quote unquote mutual, which I think it's never really like that mutual. It's so hard to be completely mutual, but I think it's more leaning on the fact that you both realize that it's not going to work. Like mature adult breakups apparently exist and apparently they happen, but I still feel like those people with mature breakups still go through a roller coaster of emotions, and it's not easy. So there's also breakups where someone cheats, so it's like a betrayal. There's breakups where, someone is just tapping out the relationship. There's breakups where the other person forces you to break up with them by behaving badly because they can't really take the responsibility to break up with you themselves. They kind of try and skip the part where they feel guilty for breaking up with you. So they do a bunch of bad behaviors that they know you hate, kind of initiate breaking up with you. That's a very cowardly way to break up. Like there's so many ways that you could get broken up with or that you've initiated a breakup. And every single one of those different types of breakups give you different results. Like you're gonna feel different things. You're gonna feel either super upset or angry, especially in the types of breakups where the other person initiates it. The emotions that I've normally gone through is I've been really upset. I've also blamed myself a lot. Also been angry in the instance where I feel betrayed, like they cheated on me, which I've been through. So there's like those kind of emotions. And at the end of the day, those kind of breakups lead me to feel very down about myself. I lose a lot of confidence in myself. I kind of become a much smaller version of me for a while. And that's super natural. In the breakups where you initiate the breakup, it's a whole series of other emotions. I think it's more along the part of guilt. Like you feel guilty for being the one to break up the relationship, especially if you're like me and you wish the relationship will go on forever. It seems like a weird action to be doing the breaking up. But there are times when that is necessary, and we'll kind of go through them as well. You know, holding on to a relationship for too long, especially when you know there's a lot of things wrong with the relationship and people change over time. Like initially when you went into the relationship, it might have been really, really compatible, but over a long time, and like I said, I do long relationships. So anywhere between 2, 3, 5, 8-year relationships, you will feel that, you know, you've gone through so much personal change and that person may not be the right one for you to get to that next level. And then it's a matter of prioritizing yourself over the relationship, and it makes you feel so selfish and guilty. Because for me, it's like, well, I should like if I committed to this relationship and I've told this person I'll be with them, I should do whatever I can to make it work. And sometimes it just doesn't work, and that's okay. So I think if you're the one initiating the breakup, the hardest kind of emotions to go through is that guilt of making it happen and ruining someone's life, you know, like you feel like you caused all this pain, someone that you love, you know, and that is a lot to go through. It is almost as hard as being broken up with, in my opinion. I think both are extremely tough. A lot of people think that the person that does the breakup kind of gets away with it. And, you know, some people might feel fine. Like there are people out there that are probably more, you know, on the narcissistic spectrum where the relationship was more about them, and they could be perfectly fine. But I feel like if you're a healthy human and you really, really did love and care about your partner that you broke up with, it's tough to get over those feelings. And a lot of, you know, getting over that kind of breakup is to make sure that you don't blame yourself, because you will. You will blame yourself for a very long time. You'll feel guilty. And when you see your partner upset, crying, you almost just want to jump back into the relationship and say, never mind. But sometimes to change your life, you need to stay strong. And I think relationships, I love that quote for relationships, is apparently by Mother Teresa. It's basically saying some people come into our lives as blessings and some come as lessons. So it could be very much that this person is a lesson for you rather than a blessing. And it's okay. I think, you know, as you get older, depending on your age, you will go through so much cycles. People will come in and out of your life. And every time someone comes in and leaves your life, it gets easier. And hopefully you'll have a set of people that don't leave your life and can always be that foundation and rock for you. But that's not always the case. That's definitely a blessing and not really something that is actually more common for people to come in and out of your life. And that includes partners, that includes boyfriends, that includes, if you're a guy, girlfriends. Coming to terms with that loss is kind of what breakups are all about. Any kind of loss is hard. So I would kind of even put breakups in the bucket. I wouldn't say it's as bad as grieving over someone you've lost physically, but it is a type of loss and grief. So I feel like you do go through a similar type of emotions and process as going through grief. Now I'm going to list out the processes of going through grief. So there are 7 stages of grief. First is shock, then denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. And I feel like when I go through a breakup, this is kind of, I mean, the order is never as perfect as we've just like listed it, and nothing's ever like going straight through the stages. Sometimes you just like literally go through one, rebound, relapse, and go through the next one, and then rebound and relapse, and then try and go through it again. But I feel like this is very representative of all the feelings that you would go through in a breakup. The first is usually some kind of shock, especially if you're the one that didn't initiate the breakup and you're like the receiver of the breakup. That's really, really shocking. This will hit harder than if you're initiating. Even if you're initiating, you do go through some kind of shock because the moment of realization that you have to do this is shocking, but you tend to go through that alone before you go and break up with the person. But being the receiver, like you would go through like this, even if you're having problems, sometimes you never expect your partner to actually break up with you over those problems, and you would just be like, wow, this came out of nowhere. What just happened? You're just like, what? Like, I remember every time that I have received the breakup news, like it's this sinking feeling in your chest. Like I don't know how to describe it, but it literally feels like someone just like ripped out your heart, and like you just feel paralyzed almost. And it's almost like this, you know, that feeling of when you get nervous and you get butterflies in your stomach? It's like a really bad version of that. Like you just feel sick. It's so hard to describe, but I think those of you that have gone through the breakup and received the message, I wonder if you feel the same. Let me know. But yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like literally feels like someone's like ripped your heart out. And then it's really weird. Like the other feeling that I get after I get like the initial butterflies is like, it literally feels like something's missing. There's just like a hole. Like when they say like, you know, it creates a hole in my heart, like that literally feels like a hole. I don't know what the explanation is and why that happens, but after the shock, you feel like there's just this hole, like someone just took something out of your body. And then the next stage in the grief process is denial. And every time that after I receive the message, I know I go into the mode of like trying to convince it not to be true. It's like, wait, is there anything I can do? Like, is there, like, what's wrong though? Like, can we fix it? And then you go through this process where you're like literally begging for them to reconsider. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Is this really what you want? Is there anything I can do so that this doesn't happen? Like you're literally in denial where like, no, they're just going to turn around tomorrow and say they changed their mind. This seems so out of character. No, this can't happen. I never saw it coming. And it's this whole like denial phase where you try and make yourself feel better, not by going through the process, but to kind of avoid it even happening in the first place. Like you're trying to make it so that you can feel better straight away. It's like that shortcut. Like if I convince myself that they're just going through a phase and they're going to change their mind, or what if I do this, this, and this to make it up to them? It's not going to happen. You're just trying to shortcut your way to feeling better. And this is the denial process. And if you're the one initiating it as well, sometimes when you see the tears, when you see the emotions and your partner being upset at you, and you literally can see that their whole life just fell apart in front of you, you're also kind of in denial of what you just said. You're like, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. Maybe I can make this work. Maybe if we just, like they gave me a lot of great points that if they fix that, maybe it'll be better. And this is denial hitting in full force. And, that's why you get so many people that, are on and off. They never get past this denial phase. This denial phase throws them right back into the relationship, and I've been in some on and off again relationships, and they were very, very, very dramatic. I would say those on and off ones tend to be a lot more dramatic. But actually, I would like to say that a lot of my relationships are just very stable ends, because I think for myself, I would have tried everything already. So it would never be me giving up. Like I never give up unless the other person decides to. I would exhaust all possibilities. So for me, if I get to this denial phase, it's like a really big thing. I've already tried so many things. The next stage is anger. And this is when you come to accept that they're actually serious about breaking up with you. And it just makes you angry. You get into this mode like, how could you do this to me? Like, I did everything for you. This is how much I gave up for you. Remember when I did this, this, and this for you? And you go into this mode where you feel so betrayed because you think back to all the sacrifices you made in the relationship. And relationships is mostly about compromise and sacrifices, and you're like, why did I give up all these things to be with this person? And now they're sitting there and breaking up with me. I also, you give up friends, you give up hobbies, you give up even career paths. Sometimes you move after you've done all this sacrifice. Like, how dare they turn around and tell me that they've given up on us? Like, it's not fair. I think that's supernatural. I've been through that so many times, and I tend to get angry and passionate very, very easily. And if you're the one breaking up with the person, like, you're kind of angry at yourself, to be honest. Like, if I was, the one breaking up in the relationship, sometimes I'd be just really mad at myself. Like, why couldn't you keep it together? Why couldn't you make more sacrifice? Why couldn't you find a solution? Like, you're a capable person. Like, why could you not? And I tend to be less angry at them. Sometimes, even though I'm the one breaking up, honestly, I am so angry at them. Like, it doesn't make sense because, like, broke up with them, so why are you mad at them? But I get so mad at them. I'm mad at them for not doing enough to make me stay. Is that selfish or not? I don't know. But I'm just like, why couldn't you have done more? Why couldn't you have, like, taken me on more dates? Why couldn't you have paid attention more to my needs? Like, you did this. Like, you were the reason why I'm breaking up with you. Like, you lied to me. You made me not trust you. This was all your fault. So you go through that stage of anger too. It's like, so even if you're the one breaking up, you could totally go through this anger phase. And I have been through both. Like, when I break up with someone, I'm both angry at them and myself at the same time. It's almost harder than being broken up with, because then at least you can be like, well, there's nothing I can do with it, and I tried my best. You could at least console yourself with that. But if you're the one breaking up with them, you can't say that because you're the one that caused it to be broken. So this anger phase is, pretty hard, to be honest. But honestly, being angry is a lot easier than being sad. I would much rather be angry than be sad. But I just think anger is not great for your body in general. I think if you're angry for a long time and you stay in this phase for a long time, you really suffer, like, physically. Like, I believe there's a huge link between your emotions and your mental and your physical body. I feel like if you're angry for a long time, you could develop, like, high blood pressure. You could develop all these kind of diseases that you wouldn't have gotten if you just, you weren't angry. And so prolonged anger, I believe, is not a state that is healthy for the body, and it takes a lot of energy and emotional energy for you to be angry. So you just tire yourself out too quickly. You basically burn out from being angry. After anger, it's bargaining. And this bargaining, I feel like when it comes to a breakup, it's very similar to the denial, but I think it's a little bit more desperate. Like, you are a little bit more desperate. You're in the state where you realize that this could be real. Whereas in the denial stage, you didn't think that it would actually happen. But in the bargaining phase, it's like that moment where it's sinking in. You're like, actually, this is happening. Oh no, what do I do about it? Like, I need to desperately do something about it. And again, this is the time when a lot of couples stay friends after breakups. I don't know why. It's not healthy, guys. It's like, if you're really trying to go through a breakup, like, why tempt yourself with talking to each other? It's hard to get out of your routines, your feelings, and your habits if you continue talking to each other. But I find this bargaining stage is a stage a lot of couples can't get past if they're remaining friends, because this is when, like, 3 weeks later, they call you and they're like, oh my gosh, I've thought so much about this. I'm so sorry. I will do anything for us to get back together again. And it's really hard for the other person because the other person is hurting too. And it's just so tempting to just be like, actually, yeah, like, let's get back together because I feel really bad, even though I broke up with you. So let's just give this a try. And you've had a while to think about all the things that you could do, you could fix. You make declarations like, there's no one else for me but you. This is the stage, the bargaining stage. And it's really tough to be at the other side of it or to be that person begging. It's really not great for your self-esteem. It's not great for your confidence. And everyone does it. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you're the one bargaining or if you're receiving the bargaining to feel horrible about it. There's no shame in that. We all have done it at one stage in time, if not to the actual partner, in our heads. Like for me, I don't actually go and bargain because I think if a person doesn't want to be with me, I just accept it. I do it in my head though. I play out scenarios of like, what could I have done better? Oh, I remember doing this. What if I did more of this? Like this wouldn't have happened. And I've been in a really long-term relationship where even after we broke up, after 2 years, I went back with him because I hadn't really gotten over. I was the one being broken up with for a really weird reason. And I just couldn't get over it. I think sometimes the weirder the reason that they break up with you, that doesn't make sense, the harder it is for you to accept. Like if they give you a really great reason that you can also understand, I think that makes, going to past the bargaining stage easier. But when it's like a reason where you don't think it's true or you don't think it's a big deal or you don't think it's as important as they think it is, you're going to be bargaining so hard because you don't truly believe it's a thing. Like you truly believe that, oh, it's just not a big deal. Or you truly believe they're making it up and you're trying to desperately find out why. Like, is this really the reason or are they just making this up? And this whole bargaining process where we're giving lots of ideas to make it better. What if we do this? And asking lots of questions like, why? This hits home. And this is kind of, in my opinion, one of the harder phases to get past because you feel so desperate or you see the person you love be so desperate, and if you're soft, you just want to cave. So if you go through this bargaining phase and you can't convince the other person to come back, or you're able to be self-controlled enough to try and not ignore your partner's desperate attempts to get back together, but like stand firm in your decision and you finally get past the stage, that's when we get to depression. That time when you finally realize like it's happening, whether you like it or not, you're gonna feel sad. And I wouldn't say you would be like clinically depressed. I think you could go through depression. Like you could feel depressed without actually having the depression mental illness. I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand. There's actually a difference to be like clinically depressed, which is a medical thing. And what clinically depressed means is you have a mental illness that affects your daily life for a long period of time. But if you go through some sort of event like someone passing away, a breakup, you can be depressed. But this is situation rather than like prolonged and really getting into your routine and like getting in the way of your daily life. So it is very normal to be depressed in this situation because it is a situation that will affect you for a period of time. And it's very normal to be depressed after a breakup. This is when you don't want to do anything. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to go to school. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to see your friends. You don't want to get up even. You don't want to shower. You don't want to like eat your favorite foods, even like the things you used to enjoy. Just don't feel great anymore, and you don't even want to do it. You just want to lie in bed all day. You want to listen to sad breakup songs. My favorite one was Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx when I was in high school, and that was probably not healthy because it's still a hopeful song. So technically I haven't accepted that it's going to be it. Like I'm still waiting for you and I'll still be here forever, so idealistic. That was my breakup song. Or Officially Missing You, Tamia. That was another breakup song I really loved. Made me so sad. So you listen to your favorite breakup songs, you wallow, you give yourself so much sympathy. You want sympathy from your friends. You want sympathy from everyone around you. And one of my favorite, I think the best part of a breakup, and I know a breakup sucks, but it also reveals like who your true friends are and who truly cares about you. It brings up so much support from around you. And if you don't have that support, it's okay. Like definitely sign up for some sort of therapy, mental health, reach out in a community, even like our community, we could help each other. Like there are options to find support, but support is the best part of this, especially when you're depressed. You do need people around you to support you and bring you up. And one of my favorite stories is I went through a hard breakup in my late teens, actually. Wow, it's been a while, but really, actually one of my first, I wouldn't say serious boyfriends, but the first boy I loved so much. I don't know if it was even love or if it was just like pure attraction and obsession, but it was the first time I ever felt such strong feelings for a guy. And I was so young. And that breakup hit me hard, mainly because the feelings were so intense that the breakup just felt like all those like great dopamine hits and intense feelings just got cut off short. And I was obsessed with those feelings. They felt so good. And I remember being so depressed. And I remember my best friend, she literally traveled the minute she heard. I called her, I was like, I broke up with him. She literally got on a train and traveled an hour. And she was a 16-year-old girl living in an area that isn't super safe, right? Like my parents wouldn't even let me visit her because the area, like they didn't think it was that safe for a little 16-year-old girl to be going by herself. She got on a train, got me some boba, which is like, bubble tea, which was one of my favorite things at the time, and came to my house and just was there for me. Like she didn't expect me to do anything. She wasn't like forcing me to get up and do things. She was just there for me, If I wanted to talk, I could talk. If I didn't want to talk, she would just sit there. And that moment was when I knew like she's a keeper, I'm like almost crying. Like, yeah, so it meant so much for me for her to do that. And it meant so much to me when she did that. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone through something so hard. So these moments are really special as well because they can bring out and show you how much someone cares about you. And I did exactly the same for her when she went through her breakups, And yeah, just having family and friends and being vulnerable is really important in this stage, especially when you're depressed. And just letting yourself go through the depression is really important. Like, don't force yourself to do too much. I remember when I broke up after being with them for many, many years, like I'm talking like many years, I wanted to be strong. I was like, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to get through this. And I literally, I couldn't sleep. So I took a sleeping pill in the safe way, like as the doctor directed, but it just made me so sleepy. And I couldn't even function in the work next day because I was still sleepy the whole day, even though I was supposed to wake up and feel better. My mind was racing and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't deal with my emotions. That was tough. And I forced myself to get up to work the next day when really I should have been giving myself space. And that was probably not the most healthy way to deal with it, but that's just how I deal with it. I just want to keep moving and doing things because I personally, even though I feel depressed, the last thing I want to do is lie in bed. But of course, let yourself lie in bed for a couple of days. Don't extend it to crazy amounts of time because that's not healthy for you in your life either. But give yourself a reasonable amount of time. The other thing I learned about depression, and we could do a whole other podcast on mental health and depression as well because it's a topic that I'm really, really passionate about. But depression also occurs because you're resisting really accepting what's happened and those feelings and the circumstances. So you're still trying to fully accept it, but you're really resisting. It's like, it's happening, but you don't want it. That's kind of the depression stage. This kind of leads and passes through this other stage, which is called testing, which they have on this list. And, I would normally jump straight to acceptance from depression, but I guess testing is something that we can talk about. So the testing phase is while you're depressed and you're lying in bed, you're starting now to find ways to live your life without this person. Like, because you know it's happening anyways, even though you don't accept it, we still like want to make our lives better at the end of the day. So we're still trying to find ways like, okay, now that this person, we're not going to be together, what's my life going to look like? And you're going to start picturing how we'll be without them. You're going to start thinking of like, okay, so what do I do on Tuesdays now? Because we used to have movie night. So let's find some solutions for Tuesday that I could do. Maybe I could go to a dance class. And so you're now starting to explore the possibility of what life would be like without this person. You know, and hopefully it's things that excite you. And I think this testing phase and this exploring phase is going to be the most important one in a breakup. And if you've gotten here, this is a really great catalyst for a lot of things that you may have been putting off to improve yourself. Like using this momentum of building this new life is your opportunity to do and think of all the things that you've wanted to do, but you haven't been able to do. And you've been putting off because you've been comfortable in this relationship and with this person. And this is the time to now build your own life. And this is the exciting part of the breakup, you know, like now you get to be a whole new person, a whole new different person. You get to be maybe someone that your ex-partner didn't really want you to be, you know, like sometimes when you get into relationships and it's healthy. And I know we have this whole like be independent even though in your relationship. I think a healthy functioning relationship still needs the couple to compromise their identity to a certain extent just so they can fit together. You can't like really be completely different and stay together. So you will tend to kind of come in together and be really similar at the end of the day. And you won't even notice this happening, but you'll slowly adjust your interests and your hobbies to come together with this person. Now you get to do something completely different. You can do a 180. You could go to the club, even though your partner hated you being at the club. Now you can go. Even if you didn't want to go to the club anyways, like you can, at least there's that freedom, you know? So now's the time to really find yourself again, because you could have changed. Like in the, you know, however long you've been in a relationship, you might have discovered things about yourself that you wanted to change but never got around to changing it. Maybe the reason why they broke up with you, and usually with a breakup there's usually reasons like maybe you're irresponsible and they couldn't take that, you know, and that's good feedback. And I don't think even though you're the one being broken up with that you're completely innocent. There's a reason why the relationship didn't work, and it could be partly your fault. Maybe you weren't as responsible as they wanted you to be. Maybe you're lazy and didn't really contribute. Those things, you should now at this stage be strong enough to stop being like, okay, maybe I was not as responsible as I could be. Maybe I was a bit lazy. And so now it's the opportunity for you to grow yourself and be better so that the next person that comes along into your life gets a better version of you. And also, you can probably attract a better partner if you're better yourself. You know, like there is some personal responsibility for you to be in a relationship and all the things that maybe they broken up with you. Now it's the time to start working on that, like finding ways to work on it. Even though, you know, I got cheated on, I think I had some personal responsibility there. I didn't address, you know, issues. I was non-confrontational. So I probably contributed to some kind of emotional distance between us because I was too focused on my work and maybe didn't put enough time and attention into my partner and making them feel connected and intimate with me. And that's why they cheated. I think, yes, there are some scumbags that will just cheat on you for novelty, for the sake of it, for fun, because they're bored. But there's also a lot of healthy individuals that may cheat because they aren't confrontational enough to demand what they want, but also want to get what they need. So not saying that it's not their fault. It completely is. It's very cowardly to do that. And, you know, but maybe you contributed it in some way. And now's the time to kind of self-reflect and be like, okay, how can I be better? Because there's nothing wrong if you did something wrong. You know, The only thing that will be wrong is if you did nothing to improve yourself after that, or didn't find someone that is okay with that. Either way, it's like up to you. It depends on what kind of relationship you want to have, what kind of partner you want to have. But if you want someone that is healthy and functioning, you need to be healthy and functioning yourself. So this is the time to kind of self-reflect on like the relationship, how you contributed to it, and what you can do to improve yourself now. And it could be fun to improve yourself. Like, don't make this like super hard on yourself, and don't make this a big thing. Don't make it like it's a parent trying to make you feel ashamed of your actions and to be better. Like, it's not about that. I think just trying to self-improve in that way, which I personally have for a long time, because that voice in my head of like, no, you shouldn't do this and you should do that is very, very strong. But I always realize it's not a healthy way for me to move in the direction that I want to move in. Find fun ways to improve yourself. Like, give yourself little challenges, give yourself little tests. If you are so introverted that you never went out and your partner found you boring and that's why they broke up with you, there's nothing wrong with being boring. But like, why not try some new hobbies and activities then? Like, just give it a go. If you don't like it, go be boring again. At least you know that about yourself. And the next time you find a partner, you could be like, look, just telling you up front, I'm just a very boring person. I like to stay home. I like to read books. That's it. I've tried hobbies. I've tried doing this. I don't like it. And if that's not for you, that's fine. Just don't get in too deep before you announce that. I think the process of going through breakups and relationships is really about finding more about yourself, and then just being really confident and owning that part of yourself, even if it's a bad part of yourself. Like, even cheaters can find ways to own that. Maybe they should be in a poly relationship. Maybe they should not be monogamous, because that will only hurt people. So there are always solutions, but you just need to self-reflect and be super confident in that about yourself. And this breakup is the perfect time to really cement that into your system. And finally, guys, acceptance. That's the last part of the journey. And by this stage, you should be feeling great. You found all the solutions and new ways to spend your time when you used to have spent it with your partner. You're doing new things that you wouldn't have done had you stayed in the relationship, and you finally accepted, and you have to move on with your life. I think this part, by the time you get to acceptance, if you've made your way to the 7th stage, it's a home run. You're good. It's the first 7 stages that are so hard. And I think the really great thing about acceptance is now you can fully move on with your life. And what does moving on mean? So I think when you break up with someone, why it's so hard is you have to stop a lot of routines, habits, and even the identity you had with this person. Like, being with someone, there's so much that is tied with that person. It is your daily habit. You guys probably had a routine you followed every day that was particular to your relationship. Those things need to stop, and you need to find your own routine. Places you went to together. You're probably going to much different places now, because, it probably isn't a good idea to revisit the same places if they remind you of them. You're probably listening to different music, watching different shows, just so you're not reminded of them. So this creates a whole new identity. Like, you get to be anyone you want now, and there's no one to say anything about it. And this is the glow up phase. A lot of, us girls go through a complete glow up and a breakup, because we finally realize, like, wow, now this is a new chance to be a new me. Am I going to change up my makeup? Am I going to change up my wardrobe? If you're in a comfortable daily routine, you probably never are motivated to make those changes. It's not like you don't want to. I think we always want to change, and we always want to get better, but there's that extra push you get from something like this happening, that just like, well, I have so much free time now, and why not, that you actually go and do it. So this is the exciting part, the acceptance, the becoming a new you, the glow up, And I don't think that I completely glow up completely after breakups. I think I just go back and work and do something else. But some women glow up a lot during this phase, and this is the fun part. Okay, so yeah, that's like the 7 stages I feel like we all go through when it comes to a breakup. And now I want to kind of use this time to talk about some tips and tricks that I've used to get over breakups that has nothing to do with any of the stages. I'm just gonna go by like some stories and experiences that I've had. So I think for me, the easiest way to go through a breakup, and if I'm gonna be completely honest, is just to redirect my emotions. Now, I think this is very unhealthy. I'm gonna call it out here. I'm gonna call myself out. The reason why I'm saying this is because I want it to be okay. Like, I just want it to be okay. Like, I don't want you to think that going through a breakup, you have to be perfect and be idealistic and follow all the rules and do everything perfectly. That's not the case. It's gonna be messy. You're gonna be doing things that you regret, and just to make yourself feel better. And for me, it's about leaning on someone else, because I would have all these emotions that I couldn't carry myself, that I would just completely find someone else and put it on and kind of make it their responsibility to make me feel better. So I know that's an unhealthy habit of mine, but that's kind of what I do. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. And what that results in, that I now can self-reflect and realize, is the inability for my own self to process my emotions. Like, I've never given myself a chance to process it because I've always made it someone else's responsibility. And that's not fair. And that doesn't make me a stronger person. That doesn't build my emotional tolerance, let's say. So I think one of my goals for breakups is to be more self-reliant emotionally and being able to deal with my emotions better. And I think that's being able to sit with the negative emotions, being able to sit there and feel all the pain, feel all the hurt, and just like let it come through your system. Like, don't try and stop it, let it come through. That's something I'm working on. But I think the healthy habits that have really helped me get through breakups is getting back onto some sort of fitness routine. I think with breakups, there's a big hit on your self-confidence, and it's so easy to just feel like I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of treating myself, I'm not worthy of self-care, I'm not worthy of taking care of myself, and you just lose all that. I think it's important to really fight that urge and really get yourself onto a self-care routine, eating well, going and doing some sort of fitness, whether it's going to the gym, or what I prefer is an activity with like a friend or a group of people, just to keep your mind off it. I think the healthiest thing for you to do after a breakup is just to be around positive people, and it really will take your mind off it. And I know I go through these yo-yo phases during breakups where like I'll be with people and I'll feel so happy, and then I come home and I'd be by myself and I just feel horrible. And it'd be like this yo-yo of like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to see these people, so I'm going to be happy again, then I'm going to come home, I'm going to feel horrible. So there will be that phase, but that phase will slowly feel, you'll slowly feel less horrible when you go home over time, and you're going to give yourself some time for that. That being said, time doesn't, like, that saying where like time will heal all wounds. It doesn't if you don't do anything. I don't believe that truly. I don't believe you could just lie in bed and listen to breakup music and in 3 years you feel better. I feel like you might still be in that self-pity mode. I feel like you do need to go get out and do something. So anything that builds up your confidence, builds up your self-worth, makes you feel like a princess, a queen, someone that is deserving of everything that you want, whatever that activity is for you, just do it. Like, don't think about it, don't wallow in it, just do it. So for me, it's like dressing up really nicely, doing my makeup, taking a bath, making sure I eat healthy because otherwise my mental health goes downhill, treating myself to things that I love. Like, normally I would say no to things to myself because insert practical answer, like, it costs too much, it's too unhealthy, maybe that's not too good. Allow yourself to do those things, and then do things that you've never done before, because I think you need to really pull yourself out of your old identity and become this new person, because you will have to become a new person to move on. So just go do something you've never done before. See if you like it. And the more you you get out of your old habits and routines and replace them with new activities, new hobbies, and new ones, the better you're gonna feel over time. And that's not to say you'll never go back to those old hobbies and routines or places that you guys used to go to together. You just need some. The other thing that is super healthy is do not try and remain friends. I know a lot of you guys want to remain friends with your ex, and maybe you can be friends with them. Just give yourself some time first to heal so that you're completely accepted the breakup before you communicate with them, you know? And for me, I don't really talk to any of my exes because there's no need. Like we've gone through that journey together, and sometimes that's all there is to it. Like that's all you need. They were there to teach you some lessons. There's nothing else after that. Like things don't have to last forever, and things don't have to be forever to be good. Like it could have been a great relationship for that period of time, and that's it. So don't go and block them, do whatever you need. Tell your friend to hold you accountable to not talking to them. Just do not communicate with them. Please, it's just so much healthier that way. The other thing you want to do is start meeting new people, because you want to see the possibility of you stepping into this new you and this new community. The thing is, if you've been with someone for a long time, most likely you have a lot of mutual friends. You probably have a lot of people you both talk to, and it's probably just healthy for you to find just a new set of friends that don't see you as this person's girlfriend. Because they're just really going to pull you back into that same identity that you being known for, and then you'll get stuck in that, I'm so-and-so's girlfriend. No, you are now you, and you need to find a whole new set of people or meet new people that just see you as yourself. And that's going to be so healthy for you, and you'll finally realize there's this whole world out there of all these amazing people that, you would never have met. So that's going to be super healthy for you. Now, I think some of the hardest breakups to get over, and I know this original comment that inspired this podcast was someone that says it's been a long time and I can't get over this person. So there's actually some pretty valid reasons why it could be that someone. So the hardest people that you're going to get over in your life, I feel, is one, your first love. I mean, there is, especially in Asian dramas, the first love is because it's the first person you went through a lot of these things with. It's the first person that you felt certain feelings with. You almost feel like they're the reason why you felt love for the first time or things like that. But you were going to feel love with anyone anyways. But because it was with them, you're attributing it to them. So now it feels like you can't feel those feelings ever again with anyone else, and it was because of them. That's not true. You can feel those feelings again if you allow yourself to. But you just have this idea it's them. They started all this, and you do get attached to your first. Some people actually just don't. Some people are like, I don't remember the first person I slept with. No recollection. What was their name? There are people like that, yes, but I think a majority of us get really attached to our first because they just feel like they created relationships. They created love. They're the whole reason why I'm here in the first place. So yes, first loves are very hard to get over. And the reason why that is because not only are you're associating all those amazing feelings you felt for the first time with them, but also you have probably idealized the relationship. You only remember the good moments. You don't remember what went wrong. After a certain period of time, sometimes people come back into your memory and you think that relationship was so amazing because you forgot about all the bad things that happened. And our memory is very unreliable, guys. You think if you remember something, it's true. Most likely 50%, I don't know what the percentage is. It's probably not true. There's scientific studies on this that your memory is completely unreliable, which means this whole image and vision you've had of this person is probably not as true as you think. You just want to believe that, So maybe it's consciously sitting there and being these are all the things wrong in the relationship, writing them down. Maybe you should write it down just after you broke up. Have it somewhere. Don't look at it. And when these feelings come up where you're idolizing this relationship, take that piece of paper and read those things to remind yourself this is what actually happened. And then you'll finally realize, okay, Maybe he wasn't that perfect. Maybe I shouldn't be obsessing. Maybe I should just be moving on with my life. The other relationships that are really hard to get over are ones where you feel like you didn't get to see the full potential. And that's hard. Some people like to make sure things are finished, you know. There are some finishers in this world and some starters that never finish things. But for those people that love to finish things and complete things and like to see from beginning to end and like to know that they've tried everything they can, if the person doesn't give you a chance to try everything that you can try to make it work, you feel slighted and you always feel like there's potential. And so you always want to revisit that potential. And that's what makes it so hard to put down, because you're like, they didn't even give me a chance to do all these things. It's not like I could have done these things to make it better. It's like, I didn't even get a chance. Like they didn't even get a chance to see how cool I was. They didn't even get a chance to see how good of a partner I was. And that is so hard to accept. That is one of the hardest relationships. Like the one that got away, the one that didn't give you a chance. It was a blip. It was amazing because you only had the honeymoon period and then they left and you never got a chance to prove yourself. That is so hard. And yeah, even the short relationships sometimes are harder than the longer ones because they never developed enough into an actual relationship for you to actually see the bad parts of them. They were just perfect Prince Charming because it was the honeymoon period. And during the honeymoon period, no one can do anything wrong. Like I think the honeymoon period lasts between like 2 months to a year, depending on like what kind of relationship and individual details. You know, if you've been in a long-term relationships, you realize how different it looks towards the end of the relationship when like all the bad traits of the person comes out versus the honeymoon period where people are still trying to pretend to be the perfect partner. A lot of people pretend, but it's hard to pretend for years. You know, it's easy to pretend for 3 months, hard to pretend for years. And I feel like there are some people out there that almost love being like that perfect boyfriend and then leave you before the facade is over. And that way they can leave a trail of women that are obsessed with them still. Like, I feel like there are people like that out there. And if you're a victim of that guy, just know that you are, you know, just know. And then like that guy never gets close enough to anyone for anyone to figure out who he is really, you know, because he's too afraid to let anyone in. So if you're a victim of that, I'm so sorry. But you are, and it's going to be very hard to get over. But at least realize that like that's the case, you know? And I think the other relationships that are really hard to get over are the ones where they break up with you because it wasn't. And when it's not your choice, it's almost harder. It's much easier to accept something that you started and you created, but not something that was put onto you. So there's that. So yeah, that is kind of me on breakups for a very long time. I think I've covered a lot. Plus, this topic of breakups is something we could do podcasts again and again and again. But I'm hoping that this one is a really good, really detailed chunk that you could relate to and you could probably use. If you have any Q&A on breakups, don't forget to join the community and ask me. I will personally answer. Otherwise, just leave a comment down below and I will probably see it and make a podcast. But of course, community members get priority in terms of the podcast that I make, and they get personalized answers where I share a lot more, and we're going to be doing some personal life. So don't forget to join the community. Hope to see you guys there and see you guys soon on the next podcast. Thank you for joining me on Make Life Beautiful. Love you. Mwah. Your spirit, mind, and body just to get me where you want me.